Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? Here, sorry, let me tilt my camera up a little.
Very well.
I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much, and thanks for your time. It's a pleasure we can talk about your show.
Of course, I'm excited to chat.
So, are you ready for this? Or do you need some popcorn
Yes.
first? Okay.
Pardon me, sorry?
Do you need some popcorn first?
No, I'm good. I've got my coffee here in case I need a little
Perfect.
boost.
Right.
I'm good to go.
You're perfectly prepared, yeah. So, well, first of all, congratulations on this incredible success. I mean,
Oh, thank you.
how long has it been at the top? 2 years, 3 years? It feels like forever.
I know the show took #1 on Netflix and held it for so long. It was so exciting. Yeah.
I was like a tiny little boy when it first appeared there. So no, but what I love about this success is the fact that, even people that may be not that much interested in the ballet itself, they became interested in it because story and character worked. So what would you say, to everyone watching who hasn't seen the show yet, which can't be that many, to everyone watching, what would you say where it's absolutely worth to watch it, even if you're not that much into ballet itself?
Yeah, I think with the show having an ensemble lead cast in this way, something that our writers were able to do was create such a diverse and inclusive story. And so I think people that aren't fans of ballet will still enjoy the show because they'll see themselves represented in one of the characters and a few of the characters. And I think the show does a really good job at bringing people into ballet through the use of the narration. It will, like my parents watching, my dad after one episode was like, I didn't know that's what a pas de deux meant. Like, I had no idea that it started with a solo for her, a solo for him, and then finished together, whatever it is. But the narration really guides people through it in a way that almost explains ballet to people that wouldn't know otherwise. So I don't think people that don't know ballet won't enjoy the show, and they'll probably learn something about it too. That should be cool.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I have binge watched it with my mother because she was a ballet dancer herself in her young years. So that was very exciting for her. Yeah. So, and she remembered how strict teachers can be to really push forward. But would you agree on the fact that a strict teacher can be the best one because they are really trying to get the best out of you?
Yeah. I mean, that whole idea of tough love is really true. I think some of the best dance teachers I've had growing up have been the ones that I didn't necessarily love at the time, but I respected them. And they were strict because they cared about their students and they wanted the best for you, and so you can't really, there's not enough time in a dance studio for fun and games sometimes. There's a lot of work to get done. And so when I look back, you're right, sometimes the strictest teachers were actually the best ones that I had growing up. And now I appreciate them so much, but at the time, I was terrified of them.
Right.
You
do appreciate them afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So throughout the show, we also get to see, some sad realities, like you can be like the best dancer possible and you still may be skipped by someone that has like better relationships. Did you ever face, some kind of unfairness in your dancing or acting career?
Yeah. When I was quite young, I was at a dance studio where there was myself and another boy in a group of all girls. And I would say we were equally as talented as each other, or we had different strengths. And his family ran the dance studio. And so I started to find that if I won at a dance competition, then the next year or the week after, my training started to be compromised because obviously the studio owner wanted his son to do well and be successful. And so then when the other boy, myself, was doing better, that didn't work. So I found that my training at that studio really was compromised because he wanted his son to do better. And so I ended up having to move studios. And that's because of their relationship, father and son. And there was nothing I could do about that. I just had to keep working hard for myself. And, that's even true as I've moved into working professionally. That was when I was young, training, but working professionally, a lot of it is unfortunately who you know. And sometimes you'll miss out on an opportunity just because one dancer is friends with the choreographer or romantically involved with them, or, Yeah, yeah, it is true. Like, it's who you know to a certain extent, but hard work will always pay off, is my philosophy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's totally annoying, but as long as you, I mean, hey, Juilliard, Netflix, look where you are. Right?
Exactly. You know, everything will come in good time if you just keep
Yeah.
working hard.
Yeah. And speaking of strength, I've heard that you've struggled growing up as a male dancer. And what is so cool about you is that you've decided to be yourself and to follow your passions. And I was wondering, how did you find your strength, back then to really follow your way and to don't allow any other voices to tell you what life to live or what decisions to make?
I think I was really lucky that my family was such a strong support system for me, because no matter what happened at school, I could come home and feel supported, and that my family was proud of me for pursuing something that I was passionate about. That was really important for my parents, that both my brother and I found something besides academics that we were passionate about. So my brother loved playing sports, hockey, lacrosse, basketball growing up, and I loved the arts, dancing and acting. And so that, what it was didn't matter to them. All that mattered was that we found something we were passionate about. And so I think having that home life, coming home to a family that loved me and would support me no matter what, got me through it and gave me the courage to just like keep pursuing what made me happy. And I was good at it too. Like, there's something to be said about feeling good at something. Yeah. And so wanting to hold on to that, I think everyone can feel that way. That's why certain people pursue certain things. Is you try a bunch of stuff, whatever you're good at, you're going to stick with, because it feels good to be good at something. So it was kind of my, like, this little secret that I held on to. Even if people at school didn't understand what dance was or why a boy would want to dance, I felt really good at it. And like, I had a shot with it. And so I just held on to that feeling, and then it paid off.
Awesome. That's inspirational, man.
Thanks. I mean, I just feel really lucky. Like, my family, I just love them. And I'm so lucky that I had them, because I know a lot of people don't have that in their upbringing. They don't have parents that will support them no matter what. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that would be my advice to get. Like, if it's not your family, then find a really strong group of friends. Because I had that too, of course. My friends at my dance studio, a few friends at school that like got me and saw me and understood me and loved me. And yeah, I think that changed everything.
And friends can become family too, right? So
absolutely, yeah. And we even did on this show, like the cast, we just became like siblings and best friends, and then we were coworkers. Like, it was just, and that's when you make your best work, when you feel supported and at home, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's lovely. And yeah, and you play Shane. So do you see? Would you go as far and say that Shane is like an inspirational character for LGBT teenagers who are struggling to be themselves?
I think so, absolutely. I wish I had seen a character like Shane on TV when I was younger. And I've received a lot of really kind messages from people that have seen the show. And I don't even know if necessarily they're all from or see themselves in the LGBT community, or if they're just young people who don't understand themselves, Like, I think, yes, Shane is a great queer icon, and above everything else, he just practices authenticity and being true to himself. And I think everybody, gay or straight, whatever, can see themselves in that story and wish that they could be more themselves or feel more confident in themselves. And I feel so much more confident in myself after playing Shane. He's like such an inspirational character for me too. So,
and what you just said is very interesting, because when you were young, I mean, that's just really like 10, 15 years ago. And then characters like Shane did not exist. And it's crazy, because you go back in time and you go like, yes, there were gay characters, but they were either there for fun, jokes, or it was like, a long coming out story. And after the character came out, there was nothing more to tell about his character, because it was just that and nothing else. So yeah, would you say the fact that streaming services like Netflix, would you say the fact that they are normalizing gay relationships in their shows, would you say that's also helping to normalize them for the audience?
I think so. Yeah. Like, I think a lot of the way we think as a society comes from what we see in our media, be it news or entertainment, TV, movies. And I think it's about time. It's surprising. It's quite surprising that Shane is the first character, or not the first character, but the first character I've seen that his story isn't revolved around coming out. He's already comfortable with his sexuality, and his story is so much more complex than that. And not only that his story revolves around romantic relationships with men, but that it's also, so much of Shane's story is about his passion for dance, his rivalry with his dance partner, Bet, and his best friendship with Nevaeh. And I think that's really beautiful to see such a complex and well-rounded character who then also just happens to be part of the LGBT community. Because so often characters, like you said, are compartmentalized to only be about that. He is only the gay best friend character. Meanwhile, but then we get Shane, who's so much more than just that. Yeah.
Right. Because gay is not a character, right? That's just who you are.
No, that's just a facet, you know? You don't see, like, you wouldn't see Oren be characterized as just like the straight boy. Like, it's just thought about in such a different way that I think in telling stories like Shane, I hope it's like, it normalizes it in a new way. And characters aren't sort of like, I don't know, for myself as an actor, eventually one day I want to just play like a lawyer, and his story has nothing to do with his husband or whatever. It's all just about the work, him being a lawyer, the drama at the law firm. And it has nothing to do with him being gay. That's just part of, I don't know, it's just like part of who that character is, but it's not his story. I think that would be super cool to see on TV too,
Absolutely, I agree with you. I feel like that Netflix is much more ahead than of some film studios, because sometimes I feel like when it comes down to big movies, you hear some producers saying, oh, by the way, that character is going to be gay, or that is going to be lesbian, or there's going to be a gay couple, and then you watch the movie and then you're like, I haven't seen any of it, and then afterwards you realize that it was like a tiny kiss somewhere in the background.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because you feel like you're wondering, what is a big movie? And for people, a big movie is, of course, a movie that makes a lot of box office money at the box office, which means that many people saw it. But then you hear from Netflix that like 80 million households have seen like a certain show or movie, and then you go like, the small screen isn't small at all. So it's so weird. What do you think? Why some big movies are still holding back while Netflix is about to tell stories about everyone?
And that's a really good question. I think streaming services, these streaming platforms, have completely changed the industry. They're able to generate so much more content, so many more stories so quickly. And they've also changed just the idea of like network TV. Like network TV, there would be like the fall term and then like the New Year's spring shows. And it would be very like segmented in that way. Versus now with streaming platforms, we're getting new content, new TV shows on Christmas Day, any day through the year. Like, just there's no schedule. And so because of that, they're able to tell so many more stories. And I don't know if I know why these like big box office movies are holding on to these kind of dated ideas. Besides, maybe they think that their audience is only that of like close-minded, say like middle America, where people will only watch movies if they aren't challenged. I think there's something to be said about that. I think Europe and Canada are much more open-minded to watching stories that are different from their own and learning through TV. And I think sometimes American TV errs on the side of caution and doesn't challenge their viewers. And so I think sometimes like Hollywood's based in the States. And so I think they play it safe because they want to make sure that they hit their quota and they don't want to challenge their viewers in a way. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a really good question. I'm going to think about that.
It's very tricky. So.
Yeah.
Brennan, my last question to you would be, of course, fingers crossed for season 2. What are your own expectations when it comes down to Shane? Where do you want him to go?
I want Shane to have a nightmare sequence on the show. If you watch the first season, I appear in all these other characters' dream sequences and Shane never gets his own nightmare. Right. I want to do one of those. They're so fun to film. They're so much fun. So I want to have a Shane dream, like a nightmare sequence. I'm also really curious about Shane's family and his backstory. We haven't met them yet on the show. Exactly. And I'd be really curious to see the tension that might exist if his family from whatever closed-minded small town were to come and be with him and see him at this new ballet school, where he's probably found like a whole new side to himself. They probably haven't seen him in a really long time. I don't know. I think that'd be a really interesting story to show that conflict of like past self. And I think everyone has like a version of themselves that they are in their hometown, and then a version of themselves at university as an adult, whatever. So I'd love to see that tension of, I don't know, Shane's family coming into play with his storyline.
That would be exciting, man. I would be. Yeah. So Brennan, thank you so much for your time today. You're so cool, actually. And
oh, of course. Thank you for chatting with me. Those were such thoughtful questions. Thank you.
Thanks for great responses.